Climate change and food insecurity pose two of the greatest development challenges of our time.
Pastoralism is turning to be not sustainable, going by the current climatic challenges.
Water is life.
From Marsabit County,
the Farming Today crew sought to find out what's on the table for Africa as world leaders convene for COP28 here in Dubai.
Specifically, I'm interested in this COP coming out with laws that can bring about climate financing to the grassroots level.
Yes, think global, act local. In today's episode, we look at food security in Kenya amid climate change. From COP28 in United Arab Emirates to Marsabit County in northern Kenya, we have a great show lined up for you. But first, let's start with our Food for Thought segment, which is done in the context of COP28 in Dubai. The United Nations Climate Change Conference stresses the importance of collective action to stop climate change. My name is Elijah Mwangi. Welcome to the program.
The climate crisis is already having devastating impacts on communities in Africa. And in Kenya, severe weather events, droughts and floods have brought with them devastating agricultural disruptions. As world leaders convene for COP28 here in Dubai, the Farming Today crew sought to find out what's on the table for Africa in regards to climate change mitigation, which is affecting food security back home.
I am here at COP28 to represent the farmer and to talk about the experience of the farmer on the ground. I want to see a scenario whereby the farmers are able to share their ideas and they are able to get funding from the government to be able to do the ideas that they are thinking are doable in the community. One thing I want to say is our grassroots farmers have a lot of information, a lot of indigenous knowledge, but they cannot put it into English, so we are looking at a way of getting this information, collating it together to be able to look for this funding for our grassroots communities. We are here to also see how FLOCA, the Financing Locally Led Climate Adaptation Actions, can reach our communities. This is a fund that has come from the World Bank and has already been disbursed to our various counties. Siaya is one of them. So a number of things have been put in place. The Climate Action Bill is already there. The World Climate Committees are already there. We are ensuring that the women's voice is being represented in those various committees. Now, when their voices are represented in these committees, it means then that their voices are going to be heard and the kind of actions that they want to take will be easily funded by the government. We need finances. So one of the key expectations I expect out of this COP28 is how FLOCA funds are going to reach down to our communities. I'm looking at loss and damage because our women have gone through a lot. Our countries have gone through a lot in terms of loss and damage. So if this money is able to be accessed by the governments, can this money trickle down to get the communities who are affected by climate change and are really working on climate change so that their work becomes easy and they're able to contribute to the national determined contributions through their various small little actions.
I'm hoping that out of all the negotiations that have happened and out of all the conversations that we have had, especially on financing, which is a major issue, that then we are going to specifically allocate funds to support our women just to be able to sustain their food systems. And when funds are allocated, it is important that we work towards having structures that those funds are able to reach the grassroots woman, because several times they end up missing out despite the allocation of funds. But even apart from that, when it comes to the dissemination of these funds at the country level, let us look at structures and work on ways that favor women. There is no way that we will say we want to support these women to be sustainable. We want to finance their initiatives, their innovations. But then we have 1,001 requirements for that to happen, which is something that they cannot do.
Now let's bring the conversation closer home and listen in to what President William Ruto, the coordinator of the Committee of African Heads of State and Government on Climate Change, had to say during his keynote address at Africa Day here at COP28.
Kenya has been besieged by relentless torrents that have claimed lives and displaced countless communities. The ensuing injury, loss and damage extends beyond immense human toll to the destruction of vital infrastructure and the disruption of critical supply chains across many vital sectors. Going forward, clear, actionable roadmaps for implementations are required. In turn, these call for a unified global effort to mobilize the necessary capital for both development and climate action.
High-level conversations there on climate financing. Whether that will be actualized, only time will tell. For now, let's shift focus and see how farmers are dealing with climate change back home.
In the remote regions of Marsabit County, a groundbreaking agricultural practice is taking root. A practice as resilient as the people who inhabit this rugged terrain. A beacon of hope in the face of changing environmental conditions is flourishing amidst the challenges of this unforgiving landscape. In this challenging and arid landscape of Laisami's sub-county, where the land itself seems to defy cultivation, we introduce you to Nairobi Food Project. Here, water is a scarce resource. Indeed, it's when wells dry that we get the worth of water. A statement that residents of Marsabit County understand all too well. Amid these challenges, development partners such as the Anglican Development Services ADS Mount Kenya East have successfully implemented water projects in this region. Alfred Lemasai is the Senior Assistant Chief in Nairobi. He takes us through the remarkable change as a result of the food project.
There's life. Right now, maize, we are growing in a desert in Laisamis. There's no any other place that you'll go and meet maize is being grown. We have done several harvests here. Also, nutritional level, malnutrition level has gone down. And I like it because we have skuma there, you can see, we have greenhouses. And other donors, after seeing us doing some little thing that they've teached us, that's the reason why they come and engage to us. And that's the reason why we are right now where we are. On the world scale, I think the best thing, first point, people participatory. Next, institutions or the authority which is there. Pass them, pass the community, teach them capacity building. After that, they will accept. And they have seen little as the way these chambers are. It's little. But extension, they have seen there's something which can come from this soil. Our people didn't know that this soil has a capacity to make them feed them from these climate change effects. In my village here, there are people who have kitchen gardens. This one is for commercial. This maize is just some people, that's interesting, and it involves all the youths. Youths are doing this, and I like, because we have made several groups. This group work. There are several registered groups registered with the government that they are doing this, so other partners will come in and part with us, and we do the best development that we are seeing.
Leo tulikuwa na hii maji na hata hatukujua vile tulikuwa tunatumia hii maji kujisaidia. Sisi pia tukaanzisha hiyo kitchen garden ambayo inatusaidia. Ile gharama yote ya mboga ambayo tulikuwa tunaingia sasa hizi imepungua, hiyo gharama imepungua. Hata watoto mbeleni walikuwa wanagonjeka, wengi sana walikuwa wanadhoofika sana. Afya yao inakuwa chini. Sasa tulikuwa tunapeleka tu hospitali. Sasa hizi hata hiyo imepungua. Hiyo ugonjwa pia watoto imepungua. Hali kitambo ilikuwa mbaya kwa sababu tulikuwa na hii maji, na hii maji ilikuwa tu ni ya mfuko na ya wanyama. Hakuna chakula ambayo tulikuwa tunapata kwa hii maji. Na hata hatukuwa tunatusa vizuri kwa sababu hatupati faida sana ya hii maji. Sasa hizi tumejua ya kwamba hata tukipanda hiyo mboga yetu, masa zingine hata hiyo mahindi yetu inatusaidia sisi pia.
To make the project sustainable, the community has formed Water Resource Users Association, RUA, a key component in integrated water resources management.
Mimi ndio RUA chairperson ya RUA ya Nairobi. Tuko na team 6 ambayo ya RUA department. Mimi niko kwa management committee, kuna climate change committee na pia kuna finance committee. Yote tuko pamoja, lakini they are under management committee. RUA wamekuwa pamoja na community wakimanage kama mambo ya maji, kwa sababu maji imeanza kuwa tele na sasa maji ikakuwa na savings ya maji, na pia wanaweza kulipia Oshman na wale ambao wanapeana pia maji kwa water kiosks. Pia hiyo miti ambayo tunamesha pale ni ya community, ni group ambayo ya community ya Nairobi ambayo walimesha miti na wanauza kuhusia matao, na pia wanapanda manyumbani. Na maana ukitembea manyumbani huwezi kukosa miti ambayo inapandwa kwa nyumba, na hiyo ni ya community.
Tukiwa na miti pia mazingira yetu ni nzuri na pia tunapata hewa nzuri, na kulingana pia na hizi miti yetu inatusaidia pia kwa pande ya mvua. Mimi ningewahimiza pia hawa waweze kupanda miti kwa sababu miti ni nzuri.
At least 90% of Marsabit residents are pastoralists, but with climate change posing a risk to food, agriculture and water supplies, diversification is becoming a predominant concern.
Pastoralism is turning to be not sustainable. We are not doing sustainable livestock production because we are keeping so many livestock which cannot be sustained by going by the current climatic challenges. There is climate variations in our area. Climate change is real, it is with us. That means that we have to cope with the challenges. We need to think of ways of overcoming these challenges. One of it is to diversify our livelihood. So it starts with attitude change. We need to work on the attitude of the pastoralists so that they can embrace farming also.
Now, let's venture to the remote region of Kiritiri, Mbeere South constituency in Embu County. We meet Phyllis, busy taking farming to a whole new level with value addition. And this is how she transforms her produce into marketable products.
Mandizi, nikienda nichune kwa shamba, nakuja nayo, ninaosha. Natoa ile mwisho ya ndizi na ile ingine halafu nakatakata. Nakausha pamoja na hiyo makanda yake. Ikikauka sasa, ndio napeleka sasa kwa kisiagi. Kama ni malenge mbandu, nikitoa kwa shamba, nakuja nayo ninaosha. Nakata na katikati, natoa ile uchafu iko ndani, natoa hizo mbegu, naweka kando, ninaosha. Malenge yangu nakatakata pamoja na makanda yake, nakausha. Hiyo sasa ndio nasiaga unji. Kama ni nduma kwa sababu inakuanga na uchafu, hiyo sasa natoa makanda. Kasava vile vile natoa hiyo makanda, sababu hiyo iko na uchafu. Nakatakata, naweka kwa jua, zinakauka, hiyo sasa hizi ziko hapa na siaga. Unaweza itumia kukunywa unji, ikiwa unji. Haya, kuna wengine wanachukuanga wanaenda kupika ugali naye, especially wale watu wa diabetes. Kuna wenye nimekuwa nikipelekea, wananiambia nichanganye kama ni malenge na nduma kidogo, anaenda anapika ugali nayo sababu anakulanga ugali special. Wengine wanaitumia kama ni ya cassava ama malenge, tunapika chapo nayo.
Great initiative there from the farmers in Marsabit and Mbeere South, as well as the development partners in that area. At this point, we take a short break, but when we return, we are going to have a conversation touching on climate-smart agriculture, a discussion that you don't want to miss. Stay with us if you can. Welcome back, and just to bring you up to speed, today we are looking at food security in Kenya amid climate change. As climate change continues to break down food systems in many parts of the country, with the most affected places being the arid and semi-arid lands, there is a dire need to adopt climate-resilient crops. In our Experts Corner today, My co-host engages Dr. Ruth Muhongo on climate-smart agriculture. Dr. Muhongo is the advisor, agriculture and natural resource management at Self-Help Africa, an international development organization dedicated to ending hunger and poverty in rural Africa.
Climate change challenge faced by farmers in the arid and semi-arid areas is lack of rainfall. This leads to lack of water for irrigation or limited amounts of water that is to be used for irrigation by the crop farmers. This contributes to either low yields or no yields at all. And at times when there is no rainfall, crops also are exposed to attack by pests because there is a pest infestation in such areas. The second challenge comes with heavy rainfall in case it happens. In arid and semi-arid areas, we know that the vegetation cover is low, and therefore if it happens to rain, flooding occurs, and with this, the top fertile soil is swept away, and in case a crop is introduced later, then it needs to be supplemented with nutrients for its proper growth and development that contributes to improved yields. The other problem is excessive temperatures in the arid and semi-arid areas. You know that when the temperatures are high, then there is increased evapotranspiration, loss of water from the plant leaves, and also loss of water from water bodies or from the soil surface. And so moisture is easily lost, and the plants will not have enough for its own growth or enough for its own photosynthesis or manufacturing of its own food.
So maybe you can tell us how farmers can adapt to some of these challenges they face.
The number one strategy is land restoration or land reclamation. For example, the degraded lands that do not have cover crops or vegetation cover, should be restored through tree planting or reseeding, planting grass, and the various ways of tree planting or tree growing. The best approach that can work in the arid and semi-arid areas is through what we call natural regeneration. And in this case, trees are allowed to grow, trees are taken care of. Maybe stumps, trees that have been cut before, the stumps are allowed to regenerate, regrow, and the tree is taken care of, probably through manuring or just heaping soil around it, creating sort of a basin for the basin to capture some water to help this tree to survive even during the dry periods. Another simple approach is through mulching. Like when a farmer is doing a specific crop, the farmer can use organic matter, grass or tree leaves to just do proper mulching in his or her field to ensure that moisture is conserved for further use. We have a bigger approach known as conservation agriculture. I know many people have heard of conservation agriculture. And under conservation agriculture, we have minimum tillage or zero tillage that reduces the level at which the soil is exposed to the high temperatures during the day. And with minimum tillage, you are allowing only minimum breakage or disturbance of the soil, and also reducing on greenhouse gases that contribute later to global warming or climate change. We also have intercropping, and with intercropping you're looking at the staples like maize being intercropped with legumes like beans or soybean, cowpea, green grams. And in doing this, you're already diversifying, bringing about the aspect or component of nutrition into households, and you're also improving on soil fertility because the legumes contribute to nitrogen fixation through the process known as biological nitrogen fixation. Okay. We also have cover cropping under conservation agriculture, and with cover cropping you are controlling soil erosion, and there are other cover crops also that are legumes
that contributes to nitrogen fixation. There's another component of water for livelihoods. That is another approach, water for livelihoods. You go into water harvesting. And water pumps can be used for harvesting surface runoff, which can still be used for crop irrigation and for watering of livestock.
Let's talk about diversification.
Crop diversification is very important in the sense that different value chains or different crop products have different niches in the market. And before one goes into the crop diversification, then he or she should know the reason as to why they are to produce a given crop. If they are producing for a given market, then they must be sure that the market exists and they're producing to sell and not producing and then look for the market. They should produce to sell or produce for the market and not produce and sell. Okay? And so diversification will be determined by the factors that are existing, the reason as to why the diversification is to take place. And again, the resilience of the value chains that are being selected from is a determining factor. And the culture of the community that is producing or the market that is being produced for. Yes. So, and the returns that will come from that given enterprise or value chain. So diversification is affected by many factors: the culture of the community producing, the demand, the market demand for that given value chain, resilience of that given crop, and the prevailing conditions under which the crop is to be produced. And again, the nutritional value of the crop that is being produced.
So lastly, you can give advice to farmers in the arid and semi-arid areas, or someone who would want to start farming but they are in the arid and semi-arid areas.
Most households or communities in the arid and semi-arid areas are pastoralists. Some of them are agro-pastoralists, and these are communities or households that rear large herds of cattle or animals. And you find that there is competing interests or competing land use practices. A farmer wants to do probably cassava farming, yet he has lots of animals that can go into destroying a crop that is established. So if a farmer wants to go into crop farming, then he should do a fencing of his land first of all, just to protect or shield his crop from grazing by animals, by livestock, okay? Then after that, this farmer has to know whether his crop requires water, really relies on water or not. And for that, the farmer has to prepare on, know the source of the water for irrigation. And I had mentioned earlier that farmers can go into water harvesting, probably construction of water ponds that can be used for water harvesting during the rain season in case they receive some rainfall. Yes. And this farmer should also go into proper selection of indigenous tree species that can do well even in these arid conditions, and try to invest into agroforestry. Agroforestry is where we combine tree growing and crop farming. So when trees are in these farmers' fields, then we are creating a microclimate that can even help this crop grow with limited amounts of rainfall or water. This farmer should also go into soil and water conservation. I mentioned that soil and water conservation helps us conserve the fertility of our soil and even the water that is needed for crop production. So practices for soil and water conservation are also to be considered by this farmer. So he's sure of the fertility of his soil and he's sure of the availability of water for his crop. This farmer should also have continued capacity building or training on proper agricultural practices. That is good agronomic practices can help him achieve the best results out of his farming.
And that marks the end of our show. I do believe that you've learned something from our segments today, from COP28 highlights to the farmers in Marsabit and Mbeere South, and lastly from our expert. For me, the speakers have reminded me of the father of evolutionary theory, Charles Darwin. When he was talking about survival for the fittest, this is what he said: it is not the strongest species that survive, nor the most intelligent, but the species that is most adaptable to change. And that's my take home from this particular episode. Thank you so much for watching. Let's keep the conversation alive online using the hashtag #FarmingToday. My name remains Elijah Mwangi. See you again next week.